What's going on, everyone? Welcome into another episode of Quarantine Chats. My name is Isaiah. I'm going to be your host for today, filling in for Stephen Wang. I am joined by my partner, Trevor Williams, and we have a special guest, joining us here on episode 44 of Quarantine Chats. He is a recurring guest. Furman Lee joins us today. Furman, how are you doing on this sweltering day here in the Bay Area?
Today's the temperature is very hot, and it's just great to stay inside and just it's great to be back on the show. I don't remember the last time I was here, but I'm glad things are going well, and I'm excited to talk about the things that we're going to discuss today.
Yeah, Furman, you're exactly right. Today's a scorching hot day in the Bay Area. That's why, to all the audience out there, if you guys haven't noticed, my studio setup today is in my backyard instead of the garage, which I normally do it in, because it is just way too hot. I think it's like 89 degrees, and if I did it in my garage, I would probably pass out in the middle of the show and have to be transported to the hospital, and no one wants that. So that's why I'm doing it here in the garage. But Trevor, how are you doing here in the great state of Pennsylvania?
You know, in the great state of Pennsylvania, life is swell. Celebrating Juneteenth, that was a good experience. Getting ready for my third episode in a week. So going on strong with it. So let's see where you guys take me this week in conversations.
Trevor, you're kind of becoming like Stephen A. Smith. Wherever the company needs you, you're there. Like, you don't even sleep, man. It's like, I'm proud of you, man. I'm proud of you.
It's a lot. But, we got to keep the show rolling, keep things interesting.
Totally right, man. So our first topic that we're going to get into is we're going to talk about 49ers young budding star receiver Deebo Samuel suffering a broken foot injury. He suffered a Jones fracture, which is the same injury that fellow 49ers wide receiver Trent Taylor suffered last season, which kept him out the entire season. Furman, how big of a blow is this for the 49ers?
I think it's a huge blow because even if we have a lot of receivers in our depth chart, this is like a scary situation that's been recurring for the 49ers for the past few years. Like our roster just cannot stay healthy. And even if we had a Super Bowl run last year, the amount of injuries we had to deal with and also the injuries from the previous years definitely takes a toll on the entire season and how it plays out. And Deebo Samuel was so important to us last year that I think if he's out, it's going to be very significant and it will change up a lot of the 49ers offense. And Jalen Hurd was out for the year last year with a back injury, and that was already a loss for Jalen Hurd, at least in his rookie season. And what's even worse, you've just mentioned it, we lost Trent Taylor last year for the entire season with almost the same foot injury as what Deebo Samuel suffered. And This is really concerning because Deebo Samuel, he's also like we said, he's dealing with the same foot injury. And also the even though the initial reports are saying that he might be back before the start of the season, given the time that it took for Trent Taylor to recover from his foot injury, I don't know how long it's going to take for Deebo Samuel to be fully healthy and 100% to start the season, even when the doctors clear him or when the reports are saying that he'll be back in practice. So it might affect his performance, and this is something that the 49ers should really look out for. And this is something that's really concerns me. But at the same time, I know this might be a little bit off topic, but we just found out that one of the 49ers players got diagnosed with the coronavirus, and they were present during the private workouts at Tennessee. So this is also another topic that I feel like should be addressed. Even if Deebo Samuel might come back for the regular season, we don't really know the whereabouts and what's going to happen to the NFL. Is it going to start at that time, or would it be temporarily suspended because of COVID? So, yeah.
Yeah, great points, Furman. I'm glad that you brought up the COVID-19 diagnosis by one of the 49ers players. That for some reason, like during the entire Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch era, we've been getting bit by injuries like week in and week out. We just can't catch a break. First, it's like Joe Staley last year, week 2, breaks his leg, and then D Ford gets hurt, and then other people start going down, and then like we just came off a Super Bowl run, and guess what? First practice, someone gets COVID-19, like Furman mentioned. Deebo Samuel in the same Tennessee practice, he breaks his foot. And then Richie James Jr., he breaks his wrist. So it's like we just can't catch a break from these injuries. Like, I don't know why the injury bug can't, like, they keep biting us. It's just really frustrating year in and year out. This is not a one-year thing. It's been happening for like the past 3 to 4 years, dating back to the Chip Kelly and Jim Tom Sula days. Maybe it's like a curse by Jim Harbaugh because we fired him unceremoniously. But for me, this is a massive loss for the 49ers, like Furman says. But at the same time, I believe it's a great opportunity. I know that you never want to see an injury happen, and we wish Deebo Samuel a fast and successful recovery. But let me explain to you guys why this is a great opportunity. The 49ers wide receiving corps right now currently has a lot of very young and inexperienced players. Deebo Samuel was our most talented and experienced wide receiver that we have currently on our roster. Now with him gone, you've got a lot of guys that aren't really experienced and are question marks, like Brandon Ayuk, the rookie that we just drafted out of Arizona State with the number 25th pick. I know he has a ton of upside, but he's still a rookie, and he is very, very young. And then you've got guys like Dante Pettis, who had an outstanding rookie year, but then followed it up with an awful sophomore year in which he dropped hella passes, and he got benched for majority of the season. He was kind of like the forgotten man in the 49ers wide receiving corps. And then Trent Taylor, who is coming off a broken foot injury, like we said earlier, the same one that Deebo Samuel just suffered. We don't know how he's going to be coming off that foot injury, because the thing about a broken foot that is really it really hurts wide receivers is wide receivers, they need to cut. They need to cut when like they are running their routes. So this type of foot injury, it affects their cutting. So we need to watch out to see how Trent Taylor cuts in the preseason. You also have Kendrick Bourne, who was one of our best wide receivers last year, but he's more of a number 2 or a number 3 wide receiver. So these wide receivers that I just mentioned, they will get an even bigger role than they previously had because of Deebo Samuel's injury, and I believe it will really help their development, and I can't wait to see which one of these wide receivers steps up and has that breakout year next season and replaces Deebo Samuel as our number 1 wide receiver.
Yeah, and also I want to make like a point with what you said. I think since the injury bug has been going on for so long, Kyle Shanahan has really adapted into it. And if you look at our previous roster in the offense during our Super Bowl run, even we had to start 3 different running backs during the regular season, and each of them had even rotations, and they still produced the second most yards in the NFL as a unit. So I think even with these injuries, we probably still can't look down at the 49ers offense and the way Kyle Shanahan runs it. I feel like with his experience, Kyle Shanahan can somehow bring together multiple rotations and still have an effective game plan for both the running backs or the wide receivers, even with these injuries.
Yeah, Furman, thanks for bringing up the point about Kyle Shanahan. I just wanted to mention, Kyle Shanahan, he has done an incredible job, like Furman said, with what he's been given. The 49ers have suffered major injuries after major injuries after major injuries, and to see this man not be given his top weapons and still produce one of the best offenses in the game, it's just downright incredible. Imagine what Kyle Shanahan could do if he had a full season with his top weapons. Oh, it just makes my heart beat even faster. But Trevor, what is your thoughts on this Deebo Samuel broken foot injury?
After hearing you guys' points and takes on it, it's going to be a devastating hit to the 49ers because looking at their division, they play the Cardinals, who are loaded with weapons this year, who are potentially could be healthy if there is a season because of COVID. But if there's not a season, then this is nothing too much to worry about. But if there's still a season or if it's delayed, it may affect how everything else plays out. Also, there's also the Rams and the Seattle Seahawks in that division. So like you losing your top wide receiver in this scenario changes your whole game plan against playing those teams and trying to win that division. You could try to go run heavy, but when in doubt, what wins you close games? Your tight end. Use George Kittle in this scenario. Stick with the run game and then throw it to your tight end when you're in that red zone and get the touchdown. Keep the chains moving. That's what you got to do in this scenario when your top wide receiver is down.
Yeah, great points, Trevor. The one thing I will say about your point about just feeding George Kittle, I don't know how much you can feed George Kittle if all the defense's attention is on George Kittle, because right now the 49ers, the running game is really good. The wide receiving core, they're not really that good. They were okay last season, but if you don't have any production from your wide receivers, the defense is just going to key on George Kittle. They're going to take him away. They're going to stack the box. You're not going to be able to run the ball effectively. So you're going to have one of these wide receivers step up just to have an effective offense.
Well, let me put a counterpoint to it. Gronk, Travis Kelce, they make things happen. Kittle can do the same thing if he had to. So, like I said, it's not that hard to do. You're a tight end. You're a big boy. Once you get past the linebackers, no D-back is going to bring you down. So the quarterback, all he has to do is just throw it up there, and your tight end comes down with it. No D-back is going to try to challenge that. So, that's easy money in the red zone.
Yeah, man. I hope you're right, Trevor, and I hope that, with this Deebo Samuel injury that the 49ers could just keep feeding Kittle. But, Furman, let me ask you about if you had to predict right now, which wide receiver do you think will be the one to step up and have a major role in Deebo Samuel's absence?
Wow, that's a really tough question. I feel like a lot of the 49ers rotations, like I said, are always changing. Like Deebo Samuel, he wasn't even a starter at the beginning of the season. And all of a sudden in the second half of the 49ers season last year, he just exploded in the lineup and all his numbers were just everywhere. And I think the person to step up, I would definitely look after Jalen Hurd. I think he's out for the year. He was out for the year last year with a back injury, but we had a pretty good value draft pick for him, which is like a third round. And I feel like he has to somehow prove himself that he still belongs in this roster. So I feel like he could step up as our number 2 wideout alongside Brandon Ayuk if he's the first one. And another person to look out for, definitely Kendrick Bourne. I think he's also a really good number 2 receiver who was able to make one of the most ridiculous catches last year that Jimmy G threw. Even if he struggled a lot with the easier catches, like easy drops that shouldn't have been drops, I think Kendrick Bourne has a lot of potential based on what he can really do out on the field when Jimmy G gets him on those one-on-one plays.
Yeah, man, great point, Furman. For me, my guy is going to come as a bit of a surprise to you guys, and that is Dante Pettis. This guy, I believe he's going to step up in the wake of this Deebo Samuel injury because you guys all forget this. Dante Pettis had a good rookie year, and then he followed that up with a terrible sophomore season in which he struggled with drops and injuries, which led to him seeing very minimal snaps and being benched for the majority of the season. So he's kind of like the forgotten man right now in Santa Clara. There were rumors before the draft that Kyle Shanahan might cut him or trade him because the 49ers have an excess of wide receivers in their wide receiving room, but it didn't happen. So now Dante Pettis gets the chance to forget about last year and redeem himself, and I believe he will do just that. He's kind of like a Deebo Samuel in which he can go up and catch the football. He is very, very fast, and he's also very, very shifty. Kyle Shanahan loves using Deebo Samuel for those jet sweep handoff plays, those gadget plays. He could use Dante Pettis with those same plays. He's just a perfect fit, and I believe that Dante Pettis will, silence his doubters and have a bounce back season and try to get some of the production back that you lost from Deebo Samuel's injury. How about you, Trevor?
I'm going to lean with Trent Taylor. Coming back from that injury, it's your time to shine again. And if you digress and don't produce big numbers, it's going to hurt you. And they might think about not extending his contract or maybe trading him away for you to get better assets. So I think when you come off of an injury, you need to make a statement, be like saying, I'm still good, I'm still healthy, I'm ready to make big things happen. Because if you don't bounce back from the injury, it's like, is it worth keeping him? And he's like a big liability for this team. So I think Trent needs, go out there, show what he's got still, show that the injury didn't digress him any means necessary, and go out and, put some big numbers up there for the 49ers.
Yeah, I mean, I could totally see it because if you guys forgotten, Trent Taylor, when Jimmy Garoppolo first got to the 49ers, Trent Taylor was Jimmy Garoppolo's go-to target on third downs. Every time the 49ers were faced with third down, he would just throw the ball to Trent Taylor. So I believe that, if he is successfully recovered from that broken foot injury and he's back to the Trent Taylor of old, I could totally see Trent Taylor having that bounce back year and getting back some of the production that the 49ers lost from Deebo Samuel. I mentioned Dante Pettis is another one. Furman mentioned Kendrick Bourne. Yeah, I believe Kendrick Bourne could explode and be this number one for the 49ers, and also Brandon Ayuk as well. In fact, I think Brandon Ayuk, this is perfect for him because he could just step in and this will really help him in his development phase as a wide receiver. But moving on, Furman, I want to ask you before we shift off football. So me and Trevor, we talked about Colin Kaepernick and which teams that we think he should go to now that Roger Goodell has encouraged all the teams in the NFL to go pursue him. I know you wanted to give your thoughts on this. Which teams do you think should pursue Colin Kaepernick right now?
I think Colin Kaepernick, I think he has a high potential to be a backup quarterback. So any team that accepts him, I think would fit him well. However, I still think he fits better in more of like a run-heavy offense instead of simply just a pro-style offense and a traditional offense. So I think the target destinations for him, I know a lot of people are saying the San Diego Chargers, but I feel like the Baltimore Ravens or the Tennessee Titans would fit him best according to his play style. Because
I don't think the Baltimore Ravens would be the best pick because Lamar Jackson was MVP. Why would you do that to your MVP?
Well,
also they have RG3.
That's true. But like I said, I'm just judging this based on play style, and I feel like Lamar Jackson and RG3, they already have their offense established. But if Kaepernick wants to find a place in the NFL, I think that's his priority right now. He hasn't had a job. He hasn't had a job for so many years. So I think those two targets are still the best places for him to at least get a chance. Even if he's like a second string or a third string, it wouldn't really matter, in my opinion, if I were Kaepernick.
Yeah, I could totally see Tennessee because, Tennessee, I don't really buy the hype into Ryan Tannehill. I think that Kaepernick would be a perfect fit there, and he would also open up the offense for them because he has a great arm, which he can throw the ball down the field, unlike Tannehill. So the Titans won't have to run the ball that often like they do right now, which I think would give them a better shot in terms of competing for AFC titles and stuff like that. Another team that I believe that should pursue him is the Buffalo Bills. I know, you guys might think I'm crazy because they've got Josh Allen, but come on, man, nobody believes in Josh Allen. The guy, if you saw in the playoffs, he choked that game. The Bills had every opportunity to win that football game. And if they had a guy in Colin Kaepernick, I believe they would have won that football game. They've got good wide receivers. They've got a great defense. Running backs are pretty good. Their offensive line is decent. They just need that quarterback with a good arm. And I just believe that if you have Colin Kaepernick there, the Bills would go further than they will with Josh Allen. And it's now wait, can you guys hear me, by the way?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I was just saying the Bills, it's now is their chance to pounce on this AFC East because the AFC East is the weakest it's ever been. Brady's gone. The Patriots, they're we don't know what they're going to do. The Jets, I don't really believe in Sam Darnold or Adam Gase. Dolphins, they're really young still. I don't think this is their year. And so it's the Bills. The Bills are the dominant team in the AFC East. Now is their time to pounce, and I believe they have to right now. How about you, Trevor?
Like I said in my previous one, I think that the Chargers are the best pick because you really have a quarterback duel that you're trying to figure out, and having a seasoned veteran quarterback like Kaepernick in that system, they have a running back, they have wide receivers, so like he can work with what he has. He doesn't have to be like a showstopper and sling it down the field. So that's all he really needs to do is get the ball like mid-deep routes is all he really needs to go for. And it's easy to adjust. Like I'm assuming still worked out for those 3 to 4 seasons that he didn't play. So the transition is not going to be that hard. It's going to be understanding the playbook that he gets put into. My second destination, I know the Miami Dolphins picking up Tua, and people worry about his knee. Well, not his knee, his hips. I would say if you want to play it conservative, have him bench a year and then sign Kaepernick for a 1-year deal or a 2-year deal to allow that transition for the hip to heal 100% so you don't take that shot or risk. Even if you do take that risk, you still have Kaepernick on the bench. So if Tua does go down by a big nasty hit the next play, Kaepernick goes right back in, and then you just extend Kaepernick's contract. And then I know my fantasy where I would like him to go is the Detroit Lions because Matt Stafford has his moments up and down, but the Lions need to turn around and be a team to be a force to be reckoned with. And I think Kaepernick can give them that edge and start building something that can last maybe 3 to 4 years.
Yeah, great points, Trevor and Furman. Let's move on to our second topic, and that is the Kyrie Irving situation. So you guys all know what's going on, and that is Kyrie Irving last week organized a call with 150 of his fellow players to voice their concerns over the NBA's resumption plan. Reports have it that Kyrie Irving said in a meeting that he's willing to give up everything that he has right now to fight for the Black Lives Matter cause. Trevor, what is your thoughts on this current Kyrie Irving situation?
I think the real bottom line is he's not be able to play in the NBA tournament in that whole playoff because he was injured the whole season. I think that's what we're trying to look at in the long run. And he hasn't been really aware of what's truly going on. Him going at it about it, like saying, yes, the Black Lives Matter movement matters and what he's doing is right. But it's like, if he was able to play in the season, would he be still saying the same things?
That's true.
So that's what we got to look at and boiling it down. Because like LeBron James is playing in this and he supports Black Lives Matter and doesn't say, oh, I'm not going to play in the NBA tournament until that is seen justice. So it's like, you got to look at that perspective on where Kyrie's putting it. If he was able to play, he might not even be saying these things. Maybe he would. We don't really know because we don't have that reality. So we just have to see how this really plays out. I remember even seeing somewhere on social media, like when he was with those group, he was like saying, we have enough money to create our own league. I'm like saying, every kid has been saying like that. These athletes, like after they retire, could literally build an entire league for amateurs who didn't get drafted if they wanted to. So it's just like, where's his head at? And like, is he? I just don't know how to describe it in reality.
Yeah, me too, man. I don't know what's up with Kyrie. I liken him to the NBA's version of Antonio Brown, although he doesn't have the criminal things, but in terms of the mind, that's why I liken him to the NBA's version of Antonio Brown. But Furman, what do you make of the whole Kyrie Irving situation?
I think you and Trevor pretty much describe everything about Kyrie. I think the police brutality and the issues with between them and Black Lives Matter is important, but at the same time, LeBron's also supporting it, and like he's also he's also pushing to play um, to continue the NBA season so that he can compete in the playoffs. But the thing is, he's already out with a shoulder injury, and that's season ending. So he really has no purpose or drive to win an NBA championship this season. So what powerful voice does he have? To say, like, compared to the rest of the players that are already in playoff contending teams, like the number one seeds, especially the Lakers and the Bucks. And also, I like to touch upon what's going on in his mind. You compared him to Antonio Brown, and I kind of agree with you, Isaiah. Like a lot of the stuff he said is really contradictory, because in the
The
first
world is
phone call, yeah, in the first phone call, he was talking about we need to stop distractions and not uh, place basketball and NBA as something that um, sways us away from other matters that are more important at this moment. And he talks a lot about change, but at the same time, like at the very next day or two, he starts proposing a new league for these players, or at least has an idea for that, and that completely contradicts what he said before. So at this point, I really have no idea what's going on in his head right now, and um, I feel like whatever he has to say, he has to really take a really strong stance at something, because I don't know where he's headed.
Yeah, and I'm gonna take it even further. To be honest with you, I'm gonna go really bold here. I don't think Kyrie Irving is fully invested into basketball. Like my guy Sammy Block said something. I think it was like a year ago or 2 years ago, maybe. He said it on buzzer beaters that he believed that Kyrie Irving would retire in 2 to 3 years because he just doesn't believe he's fully invested in basketball. He doesn't think that Kyrie's like main interest is basketball. And I kind of agree with him now, like looking at all the things that Kyrie has said. He's struggled with injuries. The guy just said he was willing to give up everything for the Black Lives Matter movement. So, yeah, Sam, I agree with you on that point. My take on this Kyrie situation is, listen, I think Kyrie Irving is an idiot. I get the cause that he's fighting for, the Black Lives Matter movement that he's trying to fight for and get change. But he said the reason why he doesn't want the NBA to play is because he thinks that the Black Lives Matter, if the NBA plays, it will impede the progress of the Black Lives Matter movement and it will distract from it. Kyrie, let me tell you something. The NBA is by far the biggest brand in the entire world. What better way to move forward your cause than by doing it on the world biggest platform? You are the only sport on TV this summer. So you could wear your I Can't Breathe t-shirts like the players did before, or your Black Lives Matter t-shirt. You could honestly bring awareness to your cause by playing basketball, by wearing your t-shirts and taking a knee during the national anthem, and everybody will talk about it because you're the only thing on TV. So I really disagree with Kyrie. I don't think that the NBA playing basketball this upcoming summer is going to distract from it. I think it's going to definitely help it move it even more forward by all the awareness that it's going to bring this upcoming summer.
I agree with you on with that, Isaiah. I think the NBA is probably going to be the driving force behind. I feel like this movement in the sports world, and like
Yeah.
I can see them pumping up and like driving a ad campaign for all this, and even look at it as like how the whole NBA care when they did that campaign, working with the community. I think it's going to be more of a community effort and being able to support different organizations that represent minorities in other parts of the country and just getting their voices heard and like just trying to educate people. I think the NBA has the power to do that, and the athletes and the Hall of Famers would probably also chip into that as well. So that helps, gain that traction. So I think Kyrie needs to work with people in the NBA to do it, but we also have to keep in mind Kyrie wants his own story, his own narrative. And that's why he ended up leaving LeBron. When he could have kept winning more rings with LeBron, he wanted to win his own. He left and went to Boston, couldn't do it. Now he joins forces with KD, but they magically both got hurt. So now he says, like, well, I can't really do anything. And now this is now my shot to be something known and remembered for. So I think that's where his mindset is at. He's trying to be one of the greats and being those conversations like, oh, you got to put Kyrie on this list. I think that's what he's trying to get at.
He's trying to be like the Martin Luther King Jr. of our time, basically.
I don't even think that. I think he just want to be one of the greats, just be well known and well remembered. I think that's what he wants to be great in that sense.
Yeah, man. So do you guys, like, before we get to our last topic, do you guys think that this NBA resumption plan is going to it's going to fall through, or do you guys think that it's going to continue on as it's been planned right now? Trevor,
I'll
go ahead.
take a shot at it. I think it's really just going to come down to the coronavirus. If too many players get it, then you're not going to have the season. That's like the bottom line. Like if half the team's players have the coronavirus, is it worth playing the tournament? Like, let's say your 2 seed, 4 seed, and 6 seed come down with the coronavirus for like both respective divisions. Is it enough to even play for an NBA title and say you're the best of all time? But let's say like the Lakers can't even play.
That's true.
So it's just like really going to boil down what the coronavirus looks at the entire month of July. If it doesn't really affect the players, then yes, we'll see a lovely tournament. But if it starts to get really bad in August, right when it's about to get underway, you may see the commissioner pull the plug on the tournament before they even actually get going.
Yeah, Furman, what do you think?
I'd like to add on to what Trevor said. So just like thinking about the condition, a lot of players already pulled out of the championship or of the NBA season continuing. And I really like this point that I read from somewhere or heard from, where they mentioned that if LeBron were to play for the Lakers in this scenario and he wins a championship, how much would that really matter for him? Because during this shortened, suspended season, if all the players if all the teams that LeBron is competing against are missing all their key star players because either they have COVID-19 or they decided to pull out of the NBA season themselves, then where's the competition? And is winning an NBA championship really a competition for LeBron in that scenario? And I think this applies to every other player that are competing for the NBA championship this year. If you don't have a full roster with all these NBA teams with all their star players competing against each other, then what's the purpose of that NBA championship? It really boils down to the point where who really wants it and who still really has that passion to continue playing in the NBA.
Yeah, I think like teams like the Lakers, the Bucks, the Celtics, Clippers, Rockets, Nuggets, those teams that have a shot at the title, I think those are the teams that are fully invested into playing. But I think teams like the Phoenix Suns, like Devin Booker and the Phoenix Suns, I obviously don't think that they are invested that much, because if they lose one game, they're out of that tournament. So it's like I don't even have a chance. So why should I go down there, spend like couple months away from my family and do this? But yeah, Trevor, to your point, I think that it's going to depend on the conditions. I think that if COVID-19, like right now, Florida is a hot spot for the second wave. There's been many, many cases that have been an uptick recently. So it all depends what happens in the coming weeks. And if the cases get really bad, like what happened in New York a couple months ago, then I believe the NBA won't happen. But like, let's say, the curve is like minimal, then yeah, I believe they will happen. And also about the Black Lives Matter thing that could potentially affect the NBA resuming. I think that a lot of the players are going to follow LeBron's lead instead of Kyrie's lead and play and try to raise awareness for the Black Lives Matter movement through the NBA brand. Trevor, you got anything else to add on that?
Very good take, Isaiah. I think in reality, you can still play NBA basketball. All you really need is two people because you have to be able to inbound the ball. So it could be a tournament of 2v2 and like the NBA championship is won between two people.
Yeah,
but that's
man.
like a hypothetical fantasy world where you could see LeBron and AD versus two no-name people and they just wax the floor. And it's basically like NBA Jam.
Imagine the Western Conference Finals, LeBron and AD versus Lou Williams and Montrezl Harrell. Ooh, ratings would go down, my guy. But but moving on to our final topic. So the Lakers right now are considering re-signing DeMarcus Cousins for the playoffs. DeMarcus Cousins, as you guys all know, he tore his ACL last June. It's been a year since his injury. He is fully recovered from it. Furman, I'm going to start with you since you are a huge Lakers fan. Do you think the Lakers should re-sign DeMarcus Cousins for the playoffs, even though they do have Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee on the roster and Anthony Davis fully capable of being able to play center?
Yeah, I think it's a really great decision. And I think Dwight Howard, I heard that he doesn't really want to play when the NBA season continues. So if he pulls out, then DeMarcus Cousins is a perfect fit to fill in that hole in that roster at the center position. And let's just say Dwight Howard doesn't want to play and he stays with that stance in August when the NBA season continues. I think DeMarcus Cousins, he really wants that NBA championship. It's obvious. He sacrificed all his bonuses and contracts for a minimum contract with the Warriors to try to win a championship. And I think as of now, signing with the Lakers is the perfect opportunity for him right now, since the Lakers are like a really strong team and probably like the number one contender right now in the Western Conference. So I think to get back on track despite his injuries, I think the Lakers is definitely the target that he's looking for. And if the NBA season continues, and I think he's going to really help the Lakers bench solidify as a whole, while LeBron and AD gets their rest on the courts. I think DeMarcus Cousins, I think he's like 29 years old. He still has a lot of years left, and as long as he stays healthy, you could give him a couple of years to try to prove himself and try to redeem himself, and also hopefully win an NBA championship on his resume and see how that plays out for the rest of his career.
Yeah, great point, Furman. For me, I believe the Lakers should absolutely sign DeMarcus Cousins for the playoffs. The reason why, because why not? The Lakers team is already very good. So if we add DeMarcus Cousins, it will make us even better. Listen, I know DeMarcus Cousins that we're going to get, it's not going to be the DeMarcus Cousins of old where he was averaging like 28 points, 15 rebounds a game, that beast. We're not going to get that. It's going to probably be a smaller scaled version of the DeMarcus Cousins we saw with the Warriors. And it's perfect because the Lakers right now are stacked at center. They have JaVale McGee, they have Dwight Howard, and they also have Anthony Davis, who's fully capable of playing center. So if we do sign DeMarcus Cousins, he won't even have to play that many minutes. I think he's probably going to only see like 5 to 10 minutes a game, maybe. But he's going to give us more depth. He's also going to give us another big body to throw at teams like the Clippers and the Rockets and also the Milwaukee Bucks. And also, DeMarcus Cousins will give the Lakers something that this roster doesn't have right now, and that is a stretch five. It will bring our team to a whole nother dimension. And Furman, you mentioned how Dwight Howard might not play in Orlando because of the COVID-19 the concerns with that, and also because of the Black Lives Matter movement. I think it's a win-win on the Dwight front, because if Dwight does play, imagine the center rotation we're going to have. We're going to have JaVale McGee, DeMarcus Cousins, and Dwight Howard, plus Anthony Davis could slide in and play center. Dude, that's basically having a starting center every minute of the entire game. And also, if Dwight doesn't play, DeMarcus Cousins can just slide in place of Dwight Howard and give us those 15, 20 minutes that we need and just protect the rim. And also, he can do one thing that Dwight Howard can't do, and that is shoot threes and stretch the floor. So I think it's a great idea for the Lakers. I really think Rob Pelinka, Jeannie Buss, Frank Vogel, they should do it. And if they do, man, the Lakers will be even better. And they're already very good. How about you, Trevor?
I think the Lakers should sign him because he's a good player. It's a no-brainer. Like, it builds up your bench. Dwight Howard doesn't play. You still have someone who's there. And even if you sign him and let's say Dwight Howard does end up playing, let's say another player goes down with coronavirus, you can basically run big man ball if you wanted to. And like have 4 big men on the court at the same time. Nobody can beat that. Nobody can guard against that. So you literally can dominate the floor for at least like an entire quarter of just big man ball. And like, just think about what the Lakers could do with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think teams like the Rockets wouldn't be able to handle the big man ball like you mentioned, because imagine you're really going to throw PJ Tucker against DeMarcus Cousins, Dwight Howard, Anthony Davis, and
don't forget LeBron James going down there too.
Yeah, you could have LeBron, you could have AD as also against Robert Covington and PJ Tucker. Come on, that's like they're going to be overmatched easily. The one guy, however, that I am really worried about him potentially sitting out that we haven't mentioned yet is Avery Bradley. There's concerns that he might sit out, and the Lakers are really thin in the backcourt. So if Avery Bradley sits out, that's a major concern because he's one of our best defenders along with Danny Green. We really need that perimeter defense against guys like Kawhi Leonard, Russell Westbrook, and James Harden. So I really hope Avery Bradley does not sit out. If Boogie comes, great. If he doesn't come, I mean, we'll be good without him. But it's all up to Avery Bradley for me. All right, Furman, Trevor, you guys got any like final words on this topic before we wrap it up?
I really don't. I said all I wanted to say, so I'm good to go.
I just want to make like a quick shout out to Kyle Kuzma. I hope he really redeems himself in the playoffs, and we'll see him rise with the Lakers bench once again, like he did last year with the Lakers. I think Kyle Kuzma has a lot of potential, and I really hope he plays in August because I really want to see him dominate the court.
Yeah, I mean, if Kyle Kuzma plays like the Kyle Kuzma that we've been expecting from his rookie and sophomore season, the Lakers will be in another dimension. It's going to really help us. He's going to bring that Lou Williams type scoring off the bench, which we will really need when teams zone in on LeBron and AD and give us another option. So, yeah, I hope Kyle Kuzma redeems himself and bounces back as well. But anyways, Furman, it was great having you on today. Thank you for joining us. Hopefully we can get you on maybe during the NBA's tournament that they're gonna have going on. But yeah, man, stay cool in the sweltering heat. And Trevor, you got any final words?
My final words, we got the fantasy draft coming up, the mock draft. Tune into that on Quarantine Chats. I guess, is it going to be Thursday of next week?
It's probably
Friday of next week. So, see what we pick. See where people complain and be upset. Will Isaiah make people cry or make them leave the chat? Stay tuned and find out on Friday.
I'm drafting Drew Lock in the first round, y'all.
You should draft a kicker in the first round. Come on, make it spicy.
But yeah, guys, it's been fun talking sports with y'all. Hopefully you guys all have a wonderful Friday, and we will see you next week right back here on Quarantine Chat. Good night, everybody.
Mama said, fulfill the prophecy, be something great. Go make a legacy, manifest destiny. Back in the days, we wanted everything, wanted everything. Mama said, burn your biographies, rewrite your history, light up your wildest dreams, museum victories. Every day, we wanted everything, wanted everything. Mama said.